Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of Deurklink Megapark. Now, I absolutely love working on this park, and I also love reading your comments. Lots of people very nostalgic for this park, and especially the music in the background of Bad Snacks really brings back memories for people. This park also is pretty special for me. I even have the park printed out and hung on the wall in my living room. Anyway, in this episode, I want to work on this area over here. So I started here near the entrance, then I moved slowly in this direction of the zoo, and then I moved in the last episode I worked in this area in the middle, and now I want to work on this area over here, the sort of mountainous area. Now there's many small things that I want to change in this episode. But for a change, I think I'll start with a big one. And that's that I want to redo the foliage in this area. I think it looks very green, a bit bland. I think we can definitely make this look a little bit more inviting, a bit more warm. And I think it will also definitely be improved with some more mine buildings in between. Alright, so yeah, that's what I'm going to start with now. Alright, this area now has some new foliage. Now, it may not really be apparent, but if you look at some of the older areas, I spammed a lot of these forest trees from the expansions, and they are very noisy trees. So I think what I did here is, I just made it a little bit more pleasant to look at. I hope, at least. I used some more of these other trees, which have a more uniform color. Also mixed in some small patches of this red sand, again just to make the color look a little bit warmer, and I think that helps make this area look a little bit more inviting. And also put some more of these dynamite stacks, a few more buildings in between. I think overall that just makes this area look a little bit more interesting. So I think this is definitely an improvement for this ride. Okay, I got rid of all the guests so I could do this recording. The guests will be back again later. So let me open the park. Now, something which I noticed when we had guests was that a lot of guests have trouble actually finding this coaster here, Blue Bayou. And when I looked at where those guests were, they were usually somewhere around here, walking around in this area. And for the guests to get to this coaster from here, they either have to walk all the way around here, like this, through the swamp area, or they have to walk all the way around here, around this mini golf area. So I think it's actually worth making a little bridge over this area here. I will just make it look like sort of like a rope bridge. So we'll have a bridge passing over here, and then another one right next to that. And over here I'll make a path leading upwards, just so the guests have an easier way to get to Blue Bayou from over here, where they seem to be walking around a lot. Alright, I think this is a lovely little bridge here. I could already see some guests and a mechanic use it. So yeah, I think that's nice. It already finds some use with the guests. I think it doesn't really look out of place here. I think it works here pretty well. And it's just another way of making this mountain bike ride again look a little bit more interesting. This is probably nicer than just having it pass through foliage. So definitely a nice little eye catcher here in this area. Now I'm going to let some more guests into the park now, because I think that that looks better than having such an empty park. All right, we now have some more guests in the park. Now this area used to be yeah, there used to be a lot of people here who couldn't find Blue Bayou, but now they all have a nice little shortcut here to this coaster. Now, something which I noticed is that a lot of these guests are also heading for the putting course. And yeah, I think that's a little bit weird since a putting course probably isn't a very exciting ride. But yeah, all these rides in this park are a little bit hacky, especially the rides which have been turned into a lift to make the track invisible. And the putting course has an excitement rating of 8.71. Now, in reality, this probably would not be a very exciting ride, so I think it's justified for me to change the stats of the ride a little bit. So here we have putting course, so I'll edit the ride, I'll freeze the rating calculation, and let's decrease the excitement a bit. And the reason, of course, I'm doing this is, well, I guess when they have park map, they tend to head to the most exciting rides in the park first. And I don't really want a low throughput ride like the putting course, taking away all the guests from other rides which could definitely use those guests. For example, the Ferris wheel. I think it looks great if the Ferris wheel has more guests, and I don't want all those guests to be heading to the putting course first. Speaking of rides which could use some guests, well, you see all the guests now heading for the same attractions. That's mostly because, well, I spawned all those guests in recently. So in the beginning they just head for the most exciting rides, but later when they have ridden quite a few rides, then they'll just go to rides more randomly. So yeah, that's why you now see such a conga line of guests. Anyway, we don't actually see a lot of guests riding this roller soaker ride. I think that's a bit of a shame because yeah, I would love to see more guests actually ride this ride. I think it would be quite fun to drop water on some guests. As you can see, it has really low stats. So for this ride, I will also just tweak the excitement rating a bit. Maybe also the intensity, so we actually see some more guests in this queue. Because I think it's a shame that barely anybody is riding it. Alright, hopefully that will draw some more guests to this ride. Not too many. I didn't change the ride stats too heavily. Yeah, I just bumped up the excitement rating a lot. So I really want to see some guests actually riding this. Speaking of guests riding something, this purple slide over here, yeah, the queue is entirely full, but nobody actually seems to be able to get on the ride. And that's because I saw it's actually stuck down here. So maybe we can see it. No, that's the green slide. Let me see through paths. So yeah, here you can see a vehicle of the ride, and it appears to be stuck here. Not really sure what caused it, but I'm going to try to fix it without crashing the ride. You can probably put a piece of chain lift on this track. So it looks like on the green one, this invisible track piece over here has chain lift, but on the purple one it doesn't. So let's give it some chain lift. Okay, that doesn't seem to have done the trick. Maybe also this track piece over here. This one does have chain lift. This one also does. Okay, not really sure why it's not running at the moment. Maybe all the boats are just pushing each other, and that's why it's somehow stuck here. I'll just respawn the vehicles and see what happens. Alright, at least the boats seem to be making it back into the station now. Stats are terribly low, but it's just a water slide. Yeah, it previously didn't even calculate stats, so I think at some point I actually have no clue what happened. I think it never actually ran properly. So definitely good that I took a look at this ride. So now people should slowly start going on this ride again. Okay, something which I could probably also easily spice up a bit is these piers over here for the transport ride. Yeah, I think they look pretty dull, pretty undecorated. I think a very easy way I could make these look nicer is if I put some a boat hire station on top of here. I think that will look really cool. Let me quickly find if we already have one in the park that I can reuse. Okay, doesn't look like it. I will just make a new ride for this. Now, this should be a really quick fix. Alright, this may not look like a big improvement to you, but wait until you see what I do with this. So now it's a car ride, but let me change it into a boat hire. Alright, I think this this actually looks pretty nice for a pier. Let me quickly change the colors to something nicer. Alright, I think this looks pretty neat. Yeah, definitely not a dull pier anymore. Like it used to be. I think this is definitely a lot nicer. And just to decorate a little bit more, I'm just going to make a little covering for this pier over here. Okay, as a wise man once said, it ain't much, but it's honest work. Alright, now back in the day I didn't really do any shoestringing, but I think this area over here would be perfect for a new ride. And something which the park doesn't have, obviously, because I didn't know how to shoestring, is a Condor Ride. I think this would be the perfect spot for one of those. So yeah, I'm just going to show my shoestringing skills, and I'll build one of those rides over here. Alright, here we now have the new Condor Ride. I think more rides are more better. And I think this Condor fits here pretty well. Had a nice little spot here. Now there used to be some water here, but I think there's still enough water around. I think this is just a nice way to make the density of attractions in this area a little bit higher. I think it fits in pretty well with the rest of the attractions in this area. Okay, there's one more thing that I want to do in this park, and I actually installed a little plugin. It's called Soft Guest Cap Calculator. So if we click now, you can see the soft guest cap is 6903. Now the soft guest cap is calculated and is based mostly on the specific rides that you have in the park. Each ride type has a specific bonus that they give to the soft guest cap. Now it's 6903. So the game will practically, if we simplify it, the game will try to have 6903 guests in the park, and after we reach that, the guest spawn rate will decrease. Now, I think I want more than that amount of guests in the park. So the easiest way to increase that is just by adding more rides to the park. So what I'm going to do is something which I also did in Class Action Megapark, for example. I will spam some small corkscrew coasters underground. I think over here is a good area for that since it's nicely hidden underground. And well, those coasters, I will make them so that they have a really low capacity, really low stats, and they will only leave. They won't leave very often. So when guests really want to, they can still ride them. They will also have no queue, so only one guest can stand in front of it. So basically I will do everything to prevent guests to actually want to ride these things and to actually ride them, so that the guests will go to other areas in the park. But for example, each corkscrew coaster will attract around 100 guests to the park. So I think it's worth having a few of those wordless rides in here. We can probably go with 10 or so of these small coaster coasters, maybe a little bit more, and that should increase the soft guest cap by around 1000. So yeah, let's build a few of those rides, let's open them and see what it does to our soft guest cap, which used to be at 6309. Alright, these silly rides that have very low stats and a horrible capacity. I even changed the capacity of these vehicles a bit with the ride vehicle editor, so this second vehicle can have 0 guests in it and the front vehicle can only have 2 guests in it. So yeah, terrible capacity. But if we look now, it says now the soft guest cap is 7903. So indeed, these 10 coasters increase the soft guest cap by 1000. So over time we should now see the number of guests increase to well over 7000. Now the guest spawn rate does decrease when it's over 7000, but hopefully over time we will see some more guests in the park, because a lot of the rides don't have any guests in their queues. I think that's a shame. Alright, I think that's going to be it for this episode. So let's do a quick recap of what I did in this episode. I completely redid the foliage in this area, and I added several buildings around the coaster, like this one over here. And for example, this mine shaft, which the track passes right through. Yeah, but I think the foliage here became much nicer. I added this little bridge here over this, over the bicycle path. Now that I see it, I should probably also add a handyman here, because all handymen in this park have a patrol area, and this area isn't covered yet. But now it is. I changed the stats for this roller soaker ride, so we should see some more guests ride it. And I also fixed this purple slide, which actually got stuck. Then I changed up these piers here a little bit, so I think they look nicer with some of this boat hire station track on top of them. I built a Condor Ride over here, so it's nice to also have a shoestring ride in the park at last. And finally I built some silly rides, which increased the soft guest cap of the park by 1000. I think that's probably a good thing. Hopefully the park will see some more people soon. Alright, with that done, I think I will quickly add a few patrons to the park. So I'll add some entertainers to the park, and I will name them after my patrons. Alright, with that we have 5 more patrons in the park. One of them on the top of the Condor is an elephant, and the other 4 are pirates who walk around these piers for the transport boats. So yeah, thanks a lot for the support, I really appreciate it, and you guys will now be walking around in the park forever. If you also want to support me on Patreon, you can find a link to my Patreon channel in the video description, and all my patrons will get a place in all of the big parks that I built. Alright, that's going to be all the building I'm going to do for this episode. I think it will be fun to end this episode with a ride on the mine train coaster. Alright, hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please consider giving it a like. It would really help out my channel, and I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.